What is going on, beautiful people? My name is BetSam. This is going to be the UFC London full card prediction and breakdown. But before we get into the UFC London picks, let's have a look back into last week and some highlights that we got there. Number one was Roman Dolidze. This was my underdog opportunity, a phenomenal play. I said he was going to go out there and smoke Marvin Vettori. He 49-46'd him on all three judges' scorecards. What more can you ask for? Then we also predicted round 1 KO for Kevin Vallejos in his UFC debut. Not only did we predict both of these outcomes, but they were both premium official plays. So if you want to unlock my plays, also, we hit Damon Blackshear by submission. We hit Waldo Cortez Acosta by KO. We were hitting parlays. I mean, it was a field day last week, and that's what you can expect from BetSam. If you want to sign up to those official premium plays, check out the link in the description of this video. We want pick/BetSam. Code BetSam for 10% off. What are we waiting for? Let's break down this card. Number one fight, well, I should say number one. The first fight of the night for UFC London is Guram Kutateladze taking on Fernandes. Guram Kutateladze is a bit of a UFC staple here. You know, he was at one point a prospect. Now I would say, 33 years old. He's not exactly panned out as we would have hoped, but he's still a good fighter. He's coming off a win over Jordan Vucenic, who is actually on this card as well, coincidentally, who dropped them early, stole the first round, and looked phenomenal. But Guram built his way back into that fight, taking the second and third round to win a decision victory. Fernandes, on the other hand, big-time underdog in this spot. He's an active striker, and his victory in the UFC is over Muhammad Yahya. And I want to highlight the fact that Muhammad Yahya, I do believe, only got signed because he's a UAE guy, and they were putting on fights in that part of the world. And I think they just wanted a guy that was from there to be on those cards. Ultimately, how good is he? He looks fast. His combinations look pretty good, but we're not going to know how good he is until he faces UFC level competition. So we're going to find out at UFC London. I'm picking Kutateladze to get this one done. However, I do think the odds are a little bit wide and unjustified because Fernandes, he's coming off a win. He's young. He's clearly capable. You can see from his striking that he's a fighter that can find wins. And we saw Guram be hitting his last matchup. So I don't know where we got to a almost 5-1 favorite here. It seems like people were just parlaying these heavy favorites willy-nilly. So Guram Kutateladze is going to be the pick. I don't know if we're going to be able to find action on him, and if we do, it's probably going to be in the form of a prop. Then we have Nathan Fletcher versus Loughran. And Nathan Fletcher is a small favorite here in a matchup that, if you guys didn't know, is actually a rematch. Both of these gentlemen fought all the way back in 2018 in the amateur section of their careers. Nathan Fletcher won that fight by unanimous decision. Important to note, Loughran is coming to the UFC. His only victory of his 3 showings is over Angel Pacheco. And Angel Pacheco was not, is not, and will never be a UFC level fighter. Nathan Fletcher, I think he's just the better fighter here. He showcased it all the way back in 2018. His career is going better than Loughran's. He looks like he's developed into his skills better. And ultimately, I just think he's going to win this fight again. I think he's going to make it 2-0 to close out the series and potentially seal Loughran back to the regional scene. Then we have Shauna Bannon against Pulyaev Tomar. And I think we can all say with great certainty that this is the worst matchup on this card. I mean, Shauna Bannon is not good. She's just outright not good. I don't know who she knows in the UFC. Shauna Bannon, you're welcome to let us know. But you do not belong here. She is sticking out like a needle in a haystack. That was a terrible analogy, but she is sticking out like a sore thumb. I mean, Shauna Bannon is she just isn't it. Her striking looks forced. She doesn't look like she holds a lot of power. She does look okay as far as like strength goes, and she was hunting for a submission in her last outing against Ellis Adeline. That fight was sloppy. Ultimately, Ellis Adeline is not a good striker, and Shauna Bannon won that fight, but it was a very narrow margin. Now she's taking on Pulyaev Tomar, the only person on the roster that she probably could beat, and I still don't think she's going to win this matchup. So Pulyaev Tomar, the only female Indian fighter in the UFC ever, and she has a win. She went out there against Ryan Amanda. We picked her to beat Ryan Amanda. She got active with her kicks. The one thing that I will say about Pulyaev Tomar's game, number one, she's too small. I mean, see, she's 5'4". You could convince me she's 5'1" very easily. Pulyaev Tomar is not a big girl. She's not a big girl even in the smallest weight class in the UFC. And I think that kind of shows And it's something that she can't help. She's only as big as she's going to be. But what she is active with her kicks, and she's pretty good at circling out of people's power and getting back in there and tagging people with her own strikes. She got ran Amanda many, many times with her side kicks. I expect this fight to be a lot of kicking. I really do. I expect it to be, a lot of kicking, a lot of kicks that miss, a lot of body kicks, a lot of low kicks, and some awkward striking exchanges with the hands. As far as who's going to make it gritty, I would favor Tomar to be able to get it done with the hands more than Shauna Bannon. I expect this fight to go to a decision, and I think it's going to go to a split decision. The hometown advantage is something that cannot be ignored here, so that would go to Shauna Bannon. Ireland's right next to England itself, and Tomar from India, English being the second language. I don't expect she's going to get a lot of cheers. I'm going to pick Tomar here, though. I don't believe in Shauna Bannon whatsoever. I think Tomar could squeak out a split decision here and cause an upset as well to people just throwing favorites in parlays. Next fight, we're going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Andre Pulyaev. And listen, these odds are very wide. Christian Leroy Duncan has beaten nobody good in the UFC. He's got wins over the likes of Claudio Rivera, freaking Dennis Talulin, and Dusko Todorovic. Those are the guys off the top of my head. He's got losses to Armin Petrosian and Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. The Robocop, it's a very respectable loss. However, he looked a little bit helpless in that fight, I will say. And he looked like a Martian because his head was swelling out the side from the damage that Robocop put on him. In this matchup here, Andre Pulyaev is not phenomenal at anything. He's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series win where he showed some decent skills. But I'm not sure if he's UFC level yet. But I kind of feel the same way about Christian Leroy Duncan. There are some things he does very well, and there are some things that he does that are just bizarre. I could see a world where Pulyaev puts him on his back and, wins this fight on control time. I could see a world where Pulyaev wins this fight by just landing more volume than Christian Leroy Duncan. The number one most likely outcome is that Leroy Duncan uses some very aggressive striking to cause a KO upset here. Well, I say upset, but to cause a knockout over Pulyaev. That's probably where I'm going to lean with this fight. But as far as the money line value goes, $1.15 here against Pulyaev is just outrageous. I really don't know how that number gets justified. So I'm gonna say that Leroy Duncan gets it done by KO, but the confidence on this is low. And as far as the betting window goes, I don't know if I'd be making it to the Leroy Duncan side whatsoever. So I would say the value sits here on the underdog. Then we have Marcin Tybura taking on Mick Parkin. And listen, Marcin Tybura, if we're having a resume battle, smokes Mick Parkin. Just resume based, like, I beat these guys. I beat Tuivasa. Marcin Tybura has the wealth of experience here for sure. He also is almost 40 years old. That's why he has the wealth of experience. He's slowing down. He doesn't like getting hit anymore. People are going to talk about his durability. I think it's going to come into question here. Mick Parkin, who we thought was a pillow-handed individual, went out there and finished Lucas Dritsky. So Mick Parkin might actually have some power in those hands of his, He's not the fastest guy. I think it's going to be a battle of the slow dogs. Mick Parkin is my underdog opportunity this week. Last week's underdog opportunity came through for us, Roman Dolidze. The week before that, Magomed Ankalaev coming through. So let's make it 3 straight with those underdog opportunities rolling through. I think Mick Parkin gets it done here. I think he's going to be the better striker. I think that he's going to be the better generalist inside of there. He's going to have the youth, and I think the strength is also going to go to Parkin. One thing that you're going to see here is people are going to assume that Marcin Tybura is going to get on top of Mick Parkin and batter him. We've not seen people doing that to him. So why can we assume that Tybura is going to be able to do that? Even if he gets on top of Mick Parkin, I expect Mick Parkin to survive the end of the round, dust himself off, and get into the next round like it didn't happen. Give me Mick Parkin to win this fight. Most likely by decision, but I wouldn't even blink if he found a KO late in this fight. Then we have Lona Kavanagh taking on Felipe dos Santos. And initially, on the surface here, I want to say that the odds are wide. But then you look a little bit closer. You see Lona Kavanagh's last matchup, and you can kind of draw some comparisons here and see that there is, some parallels that we can draw. I think Lona Kavanagh can beat Felipe dos Santos to the punch. I think that he is faster for sure. I mean, his hand speed when he lets them go, which is something that I'm going to talk about here, it's definitely faster than most of the people he's going to come across. His striking output, though, is something that leaves a little to be desired. I would like to see him get a little bit more active with those hands. We know he's got the speed, but, be first and last. Unleash some combinations, don't just make it a pot shot type affair, because if it is, and Felipe dos Santos lets him do that, he's going to run away with this fight for sure. But I think Felipe dos Santos is going to bring the action. I think it's going to force this fight to potentially be closer than it needs to be. I'm still going to lean low to Kavanagh here, but I think he wins this fight by decision. I'm not sure if he gets Felipe dos Santos out of there, considering how much of a back and forth affair he might turn this into. And then we have, coming up, Jai Herbert taking on Chris Taco Padilla. And I'm going to do a pick flip here. If you guys follow the We Want Picks channel, if you've signed up to Premium, you'll see that I've already put my picks out there on the website. You can see fight picks. I'm doing a pick flip here. Initially, I was on Jai Herbert. And what has sort of led me to switch here is the fact that Jai Herbert he's old, man, like 36 years old. I'm expecting this guy to turn up here and look the best, but at 36, he's probably on the decline, And Chris Padilla at 29 is probably on the up and up. He's inside the UFC. He's looked pretty good in the UFC, better than his regional tape. And, Jai Herbert, if he's looking even 10% slower than he usually is, and his output is not there, I think Chris Padilla will just out-volume him, out-will him. And outside of a finish here, I think Chris Padilla's got a lot of the upside here. So being an underdog is a little bit surprising. The hometown advantage going to Jai Herbert, but I'm going to take Padilla here. Give me a little bit of faith here. Padilla is actually somebody I have, undervalued in the past here. So I'm going to take Padilla. I haven't played this yet, but there could be some action from me later on the week, potentially on the prop front there. And then we have Nathaniel Wood taking on Morgan Charriere. This is something I absolutely am going to target. I've got some action on it already. If you want to see that, sign up to We Want Picks Premium. The link in the description of this video, you know what to do. Now listen, Morgan Charriere here, the Frenchman, he fights aggressive for a Frenchman, for sure. He's got grappling in spades. He has KO power. He's flashy. He's got good head movement as well as good head movement. I'm going to add on to that and say that he moves well with strikes. If he gets hit with a hook, he'll roll with it. He will. Kevin Holland's another example of this as well. He's not somebody that gets hit clean very easily. So Morgan Charriere here against Nathaniel Wood. I would say Nathaniel Wood's best abilities are to mix it up with the grappling and the hands. And we've seen Morgan Charriere, in my opinion, I think he beat Chepe Mariscal. I really do. I think he won that fight. I think it should have gone to him. I'm not going to call it a robbery, but I think Charriere won that one. And from that matchup here, to go to this one gives me a lot of faith in him. The only concern I have is if Morgan Charriere lets this be close, and even if he's winning the rounds, and I think he's winning them, if it's close at all, I think they potentially could give it to Nathaniel Wood. There's going to be a lot of English people cheering for him. I'm going to go Morgan Charriere here, but there's a potential angle I'm looking to take for this as well and hit for a major play that you'll have to see later on the week. Then we have Jordan Vucenic taking on Chris Duncan. Now, Jordan Vucenic is in the UFC. He's 0-1 in the UFC. He lost to Kutateladze, and he's sitting here as a 4-1 favorite. And a lot of you guys are going to be scratching your head going, why? Chris Duncan's very good. Jordan Vucenic has wins over Morgan Charriere. He has wins over Paul Hughes. I mean, this guy has a phenomenal resume for somebody who's just now getting into the UFC, and he looked pretty dang good in his last outing, despite losing that fight. So Jordan Vucenic here, I do want to say it's a little bit wide, but I think he wins this fight, man. And if you got onto him early, you would have got a lot better odds on that as well. It's being driven by a lot of people having faith in him. Chris Duncan here, he's going to bring the action. He's got power in his hands. He's pretty durable, but he does get finished in his losses as well. He's been submitted. He's been finished before by a left hook on the Dana White's Contender Series. Jordan Vucenic has hand speed, it's very fast hands. He's got submission. So I think Jordan Vucenic is incredibly live here for a finish. If this fight goes to a decision, though, and Chris Duncan has managed to stick around, hang around, he's also got offense of his own. So I think Chris Duncan's live there, but I really do think Jordan Vucenic gets the finish here, gets his first UFC W, and finishes Chris Duncan in UFC London. And then we have Molly McCann, everybody's favorite meatball, taking on Alexia Thainara. I'm a certified Molly McCann non-believer. I've been betting against Molly McCann in most of her fights, to be honest with you. I really don't see what other people see in her. I know she's aggressive. I know she comes forward. I really don't think she's all that technical, and she's got absolute T-Rex arms, little tiny arms Molly McCann has. She swings them like little meat hooks, but at this point, everybody knows what she's bringing to the table, so I think she's pretty easy to defeat. As far as Alexia Thainara, 11-1, great record. She's coming in here, 29 years old. She's hungry. She's gunning for it, ever improving. Coming in here, active striker, get in your face. I think we're going to have a bit of a barn burner here. I think this goes all 3 rounds, and I think Alexia Thainara gets the win, but Molly McCann is going to hang tough, not get finished, and be battered and bruised. That's going to be my official prediction. Take it to the bank. Then we have Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland, and this is going to be my second pick flip. All right. And this one comes down to, I had no faith in Kevin Holland, right? So I was like, I'm going to pick Gunnar Nelson, right? Gunnar Nelson's coming off a win. Gunnar Nelson has a couple of wins over a 5-year period. He's really, really not been active in the later stages of his career. He also is going to be much smaller than Kevin Holland here. His danger factor in the submission department, it's hard to envisage Gunnar Nelson submitting Kevin Holland. I mean, like, literally, it's hard for me to see that visual of Gunnar Nelson going out here and submitting Kevin Holland. It's not Renier de Ridder, it's not some big middleweight, potentially, light heavyweight sized guy that's outpowering Kevin Holland, So I hate to say it because Kevin Holland has been inconsistent to say the absolute least, but if he can jump on those scales, successfully make welterweight, turn up here not looking too drained and sounds focused at the media day, then this is going to look like a great bet. Because if you give me the best Gunnar Nelson versus the best Kevin Holland, I would expect Kevin Holland to be lined at $1.25. Like, if you're talking peak Kevin Holland, let's say, I think it was 2020, the year where Kevin Holland had like 5 wins or whatever it was, that Kevin Holland turning up here at welterweight against Gunnar Nelson, $1.25. He smokes. And so if I'm assuming that we're getting the best version of him here, this price actually looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have an official play here. Make sure you sign up to We Want Picks Premium. In the description of this video, there is a link, and you can sign up there. Code BetSam, 10% off. You will see an official play here, but it's not going to be the money line, and I'm going to wait for that one to surface before we hit it. Pick's going to be Kevin Holland. Confidence, though, questionable. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. Wow, how time flies. Carlos Ulberg taking on Jan Blachowicz. If you guys haven't already seen the video, Carlos Ulberg is the slam of the week. I got a much better price than this. The line is moving, and I absolutely understand it. Carlos Ulberg is from New Zealand, so you might say some hometown bias, but he's taken on Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz has 1 win in the past 4 years. 1 win, 4 years. He hasn't fought, and it's coming up to a couple of years now, I think, Turned 42 years old. It says 41 in that graphic. A couple of weeks ago, he turned 42. Jan Blachowicz is old, man. And he's been getting plagued with injuries trying to train to get into fights. They've been trying to book him. He's been trying to get back in there. He's been injury-ridden. Now he turns up here. I believe this is his last rodeo. I really do. Win or lose. I think Jan Blachowicz is turning up here, and I think he's probably already told the UFC, I'm hanging it up here. That hasn't been surfaced anywhere, but this is what I'm speculating here. Jan Blachowicz, I think our days of witnessing the Polish power, they're numbered. And with that information here, knowing that he's been struggling to get in here, and he's taking on somebody who I'm quite fond of in Carlos Ulberg, 34 years old, either just in his prime or just slightly exiting, taking on Jan Blachowicz. He doesn't have any of those road miles comparatively to Blachowicz. He's got the reach advantage here. I know it says that Jan Blachowicz is going to have the reach advantage. You wait till they start striking. It's going to look like Ulberg's got a reach advantage in here. I think Ulberg's going to potentially find a finish here. It depends on the game plan that Blachowicz has. If Blachowicz plans on coming in here to strike, I think he gets finished. I really do. I think he does. If he comes in here planning to wrestle, I think he gets finished as well. And if he comes in here and mixes them up, if he gets a takedown but doesn't purely go for the takedowns and then gets to the leg kicks, if he starts doing that, then I could see Carlos Ulberg winning decision. Any way I see this fight is Carlos Ulberg winning. It is my most confident pick on this card. Odds aside, I really do think that Ulberg is the best play on this card. That is why he is the slam of the week. I'm telling you guys, man. Jan Blachowicz that you think you're getting, it's not going to be the one that turns up. Give me Ulberg to win this one all damn day. CKB, baby. Let's get it done. People have been coming at me in the comments, actually. People have been saying stuff like City Kickboxing is going to have another L. City Kickboxing, they're just losing. Questionable fighter coming out of City Kickboxing. A couple of years ago, City Kickboxing was like the fighting nerds. Everyone was, oh my God, somebody's coming out of City Kickboxing. Let's go. It's funny how quickly the MMA fans forget, man. But Carlos Ulberg's going to remind you that City Kickboxing is one of the best striking gyms for UFC in the world. In the main event, we have Leon Edwards taking on Sean Brady. And this is another confident pick of mine, guys. Straight off the rip, I'm not going to gas you up. I'm not going to tail you around here. I'm picking Sean Brady, right? We just kind of saw this matchup. And before anyone goes, Brady's not below. He's not. But as far as fighters go, he's close, you know. He's active with the striking these days. He's still going for those takedowns. He's got submissions, and he threatens with submissions to keep positions. Leon Edwards, in his prime, was pretty good, but he was still low volume, and I still would pick Sean Brady to beat him. Listen, Leon Edwards is 33, and some people decline earlier than others. It seems like we witnessed Leon Edwards become the world champion and then fall off a cliff. Because his fight against Colby Covington, I was like, he's going to finish Covington. Covington's washed, and Covington is washed. And in that fight, Leon Edwards just no urgency to create damage, no urgency to put a combination together, you know, no urgency in his last fight to do anything, really. Just stood there and let Bilal beat him up until the 5th round where he decided to really go for it and showed that, hey, if he goes for it, maybe he could have won this fight. The reality is I think Sean Brady is just going to swarm him. I think there's going to be punches and bunches. I think there's going to be multitudes of takedowns. And I think Sean Brady's gas tank is going to hold up. I think he's going to be going all throughout this fight. Either he finds a round 1, round 2 submission, you know, by getting into a good position, Leon Edwards slipping up, giving up that neck of his, or this goes all 5 and Sean Brady wins by decision. I'm not counting out a finish, which is why I do have a play on his money line. But I would say the most likely outcome is Sean Brady, you know, freaking unanimous decision victory here. That is the breakdown, guys. If you want to unlock all of my bets, my picks, round line leans, and more, sign up to We Want Picks in the link in this description. Code BetSam for 10% off. And I will see you all come fight night. Let's make some money, boys.